Clarity of vision, the very first step on any 6-month journey to success is clarity of vision. Because without clarity, effort becomes wasted energy, and no matter how hard you work, you will always feel like you are running in circles instead of moving forward. Imagine getting into a car, driving for 6 hours without a destination, and then wondering why you never arrived. Life without a clear vision is the same. You burn fuel, you spend time, you put in effort, but you remain lost. Clarity of vision is about answering the most important question: where am I going and why am I going there? Most people set vague goals like, I want to be successful, or I want to be happier. While these sound nice, they are not visions. They are wishes. A true vision is specific, measurable, and emotionally connected to your heart. If you say you want to transform your life in 6 months, then define exactly what transformation means to you. Is it launching a business and landing your first clients? Is it losing 20 pounds and gaining the energy you have always desired? Is it building the discipline to wake up early, read daily, and finally write the book that has been in your head for years? Your vision must be so clear that you can close your eyes and see it, touch it, and even feel the emotions you will experience once it becomes reality. Clarity is powerful because it creates direction, and direction creates focus. Focus eliminates distractions, and distractions are the silent killers of dreams. When you are not clear, you say yes to everything, you jump from one thing to another, and at the end of 6 months you find yourself exhausted with very little progress to show. But when your vision is crystal clear, you can say no to what does not serve it. You can filter your decisions through one simple question: does this action bring me closer to my vision, or does it pull me away? That single question becomes your compass, and it will save you from wasting time on things that look urgent, but are not truly important. Another reason clarity of vision matters is because it builds belief. You cannot believe in something you cannot see. And the human brain is wired to move toward pictures it holds strongly. If you can picture yourself walking on a stage giving a presentation, your mind begins preparing for that reality. If you can picture yourself holding the keys to your first home, you will begin noticing opportunities to make it possible. Vision activates awareness, and awareness creates momentum. This is why successful athletes visualize their victories before they step on the field. They live the victory in their minds before it happens in reality. And that clarity trains their body, their focus, and their emotions to align with the outcome. In your own 6-month plan, clarity must be written down. Do not keep it vague in your head. Take a notebook and describe your vision in detail. Write down what you want to achieve, why you want it, and how your life will look and feel when you reach it. Be brutally honest with yourself, because clarity also demands truth. Many people chase goals that are not their own, goals handed to them by society, family, or peers, and that is why they lack the energy to follow through. But when the vision is yours, when it is tied to your deepest desires and values, you will find the energy to push forward even when it gets hard. Clarity of vision also sets the stage for discipline. If you are unclear, discipline feels like punishment because you are forcing yourself to do things without understanding why. But when your vision is alive in your heart, discipline becomes devotion, and every sacrifice feels worthwhile. Waking up early stops being a chore and becomes an act of alignment. Reading that extra chapter stops being work and becomes fuel. Saying no to short-term comfort stops being painful and becomes a proud choice, because you know exactly what you are working toward. Think about it, the next 6 months will pass whether you have clarity or not. Time does not stop for the unclear. The only difference will be that the person with vision will arrive somewhere meaningful, while the person without vision will remain exactly where they started, perhaps even further behind. That is the silent tragedy of drifting without direction. You never notice the wasted potential until it is too late. Clarity of vision, the very first step in creating a 6-month success plan, is gaining absolute clarity of vision. Because without vision, even the strongest effort becomes scattered, and scattered energy never produces extraordinary results. Think about it, a ship without a destination will drift endlessly, carried by the waves, while a ship with a clear map and a clear harbor will cut through storms and currents until it arrives exactly where it was meant to be. Life works in exactly the same way. Many people spend their days busy working hard, staying active, yet when they pause to reflect, they realize they are no closer to where they want to be. Why? because they never stopped to define where they wanted to go. Clarity of vision begins with asking yourself an uncomfortable but powerful question. What do I truly want my life to look like 6 months from today? Not in a vague, half-hearted way, but with absolute detail. If you want to grow financially, then specify how much you want to earn and what that money will allow you to do. If you want to transform your health, then define what transformation means. Does it mean running a 5K without stopping, or does it mean standing in front of a mirror and feeling proud of the reflection staring back at you? If you want to grow in discipline, what does that look like? Waking up consistently at 5 a.m., building a reading habit, or finally finishing that project you've been delaying for years. Clarity demands precision because vague dreams do not inspire action, but a clear picture pulls you toward it with energy and urgency. When your vision is clear, your decisions become sharper. You stop saying yes to everything, and you begin filtering your actions through a simple question. Does this move me closer to my vision, or does it distract me from it? That one filter alone has the power to save you countless hours, protect you from wasted effort, and give you a sense of focus that most people never experience. People without clarity get pulled into every distraction. The endless scrolling, the unnecessary conversations, the shallow commitments, because they have no anchor. But when you are anchored to a clear vision, distractions lose their power over you. You stop living by impulse, and you start living by intention. Clarity also fuels belief. You cannot believe in something you cannot imagine, and the human brain is designed to move toward the pictures it holds most strongly. If you can visualize yourself completing your 6-month goal, if you can see yourself standing in the moment of victory, whether that is signing the deal, stepping on the scale, publishing the book, or celebrating with your team, then your mind begins to organize your energy around that picture. This is why professional athletes spend hours visualizing their performance before a game. They live the victory mentally before they live it physically. And in doing so, they align their body, their focus, and their emotions with success. In your 6-month journey, clarity is your mental rehearsal of the victory that will guide your steps. Another dimension of clarity is emotional connection. A vision without emotion is weak because when challenges arrive, and they always do, logic alone will not carry you through. You must feel something deeply about your vision. If your goal is financial growth, it cannot just be about numbers. It must be about what those numbers will allow you to experience. Freedom, security for your family, the ability to give more, or the joy of proving to yourself that you can rise. If your goal is about health, it cannot just be about weight. It must be about the confidence, the energy, the vitality that health brings. When your vision is tied to emotion, it becomes more than a goal. It becomes a mission, and missions are much harder to abandon. Clarity of vision also eliminates unnecessary comparison. When you know exactly where you are going, you no longer waste energy measuring yourself against others, because you understand that their path is different. Without clarity, you get distracted by the illusion of someone else's success and feel discouraged. With clarity, you measure yourself only by your progress toward your vision. That shift alone is liberating because it allows you to focus on growth rather than competition. Finally, clarity makes discipline meaningful. If you do not know why you are waking up early, exercising, studying, or sacrificing comfort, then discipline feels like punishment. But when your vision is vivid, discipline becomes devotion, and every action feels purposeful. The early morning alarms, the extra hours of work, the choices to say no to distractions, all of it becomes fuel, because you know you are not just working, you are aligning your daily actions with a bigger picture. The truth is, the next 6 months will pass regardless of what you do. The only question is whether you will arrive at a destination you chose, or one chosen for you by distractions, by society, or by default. Clarity vision ensures that 6 months from now, when you look back, you will not only see the passage of time, but also the progress of purpose. Discipline over motivation. Once you have clarity of vision, the next challenge is how to sustain the journey toward that vision. And this is where most people fail, not because they lack intelligence or talent, but because they depend too heavily on motivation. Motivation feels exciting, it sparks energy, it makes you want to move, but it is also unpredictable. It comes and goes like the wind, and if you build your entire plan around waiting for motivation, you will find yourself making progress on some days and completely stalling on others. Success in 6 months cannot rely on temporary feelings. It must be built on the unshakable foundation of discipline. Discipline is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Think about it. Everyone starts the journey with enthusiasm. The first week of going to the gym feels great. The first week of building a business feels exciting. The first week of waking up early feels empowering. But after the initial rush fades, after your muscles ache, after the results are not immediate, after the excitement wears off, that is when most people stop. They tell themselves, I'll try again later, or maybe this isn't for me. But discipline is what keeps you showing up, even when the excitement has vanished, even when the results are invisible, even when your mind tempts you to quit. Discipline is about keeping promises to yourself. It is easy to make promises to others and keep them because you fear disappointing people around you. But the most powerful growth happens when you reach the point where you fear disappointing yourself. When you commit to waking up early, you honor that commitment not because it feels good, but because you respect the person you are becoming. When you commit to working on your business, you sit down and do the work even when the mood isn't there, because you know that moods are temporary, but the impact of consistent effort is permanent. The truth is, motivation is emotional, but discipline is logical. Motivation asks, do I feel like doing this right now? While discipline asks, is this aligned with the vision I have set for my life? One is reactive, the other is proactive. One is temporary, the other is permanent. When you master discipline, you free yourself from being controlled by the ups and downs of your emotions, and you begin living by the strength of your commitments. That shift changes everything, because it removes the biggest obstacle to success, your own inconsistency. Discipline is also about creating systems, not relying on willpower. Willpower is limited, it drains quickly throughout the day. But systems protect you from the need to constantly make decisions. For example, if you decide you will work out at 7 a.m. every day, then you do not need to debate with yourself in the morning. The decision has already been made. Your only job is to execute it. If you decide to set aside 1 hour each night for study or building your side hustle, then that time is already reserved. There is no negotiation. Systems make discipline easier because they automate your actions. The less you leave to chance, the more consistent you become. But here is where the emotional power of discipline shines. Discipline teaches you self-respect. Every time you follow through on a promise you made to yourself, you build trust with yourself, and that trust is priceless. People lose confidence not because they lack ability, but because they break too many promises to themselves. They say they will start tomorrow, but tomorrow never comes. They say they will commit, but commitment fades within days. This cycle creates shame and doubt. Discipline breaks that cycle. When you prove to yourself, day after day, that you can be trusted to act on your commitments, your confidence grows. And with confidence, you start to believe that no matter what obstacle arises, you have the strength to push through. Discipline also protects your vision during the days of struggle. There will be mornings when you wake up tired, nights when you feel discouraged, weeks when nothing seems to be working. Without discipline, you will give up in those moments because your emotions will convince you it's not worth it. But with discipline, you act regardless of how you feel. You continue moving step by step because you know consistency compounds into results. 6 months of disciplined effort can transform everything, but 6 months of waiting for motivation will leave you exactly where you started. The truth is simple. Motivation is a spark, but discipline is the engine. Motivation may start the journey, but discipline is what carries you to the finish line. If you want your 6-month plan to succeed, you must build your days on discipline, not on moods, because moods change, but discipline creates transformation. Focus on small wins. Once clarity of vision is established and discipline begins to anchor your daily actions, the next key to lasting progress lies in understanding the power of small wins. Too often, people underestimate the value of incremental progress because they are obsessed with dramatic results. They want transformation overnight. They want instant evidence of success. They want to leap rather than climb. And when they don't see that sudden breakthrough, they lose heart, believing their effort is wasted. But the truth is, success is rarely born in explosive moments. It is built brick by brick, small win by small win, until those small victories accumulate into massive change. Think about a mountain. From the base, the peak looks impossible, and the thought of reaching it in a single day feels overwhelming. But no climber takes one giant leap to the top. They take one step, then another, and then another. Each step is not impressive by itself. It may even feel slow and insignificant. But when you put enough steps together, you eventually reach the summit. The 6-month journey is exactly the same. The small wins, waking up earlier than yesterday, completing one workout, writing one page of a book, saving a small amount of money, may not look like much in isolation, but over time they create momentum that is unstoppable. The danger is that many people ignore these small wins because they are so focused on the big goal. They step on the scale and see only 2 pounds lost, and they dismiss it as nothing. They work on their business and only land one client, and they call it failure. They save $50 and complain that it's not enough. But what they fail to see is that the small win is proof that the system is working. Those 2 pounds prove your habits are shifting. That one client proves your service has value. That $50 proves you are capable of managing your resources. When you celebrate these small victories, you fuel your motivation and remind yourself that progress is happening, even if it is not yet dramatic. Focusing on small wins also prevents burnout. When your only measure of success is the massive end goal, you create a gap that feels impossible to close. Every day feels like a reminder of how far you still have to go. That gap becomes heavy, and eventually you convince yourself that it's hopeless. But when you set your eyes on the smaller steps, you allow yourself to feel progress daily. You begin to appreciate the journey, not just the destination. That sense of daily accomplishment keeps your energy alive. It transforms the process from torture into growth, from pressure into pride. Small wins also train consistency, and consistency is the real secret to transformation. Doing something small every day creates more change than doing something huge once in a while. Reading for 10 minutes a day builds more knowledge than reading for 5 hours once a month. Saving $10 every day grows more wealth than saving $1,000 once in a year. Progress compounds like interest, and the person who understands this never underestimates the small steps. 6 months of small, consistent wins create a transformation that shocks those who only waited for big breakthroughs. Another hidden power of small wins is how they change your identity. Each time you achieve a small win, you begin to see yourself differently. If you run for 10 minutes today, you begin to see yourself as a runner. If you complete a short writing session, you begin to see yourself as a writer. If you consistently keep your promises in small things, you begin to see yourself as disciplined. And once your identity shifts, your behavior follows naturally. People do not rise to the level of their goals. They fall to the level of their identity. Small wins are what raise that identity, step by step, until you begin to act in alignment with the person you are becoming. It is also important to recognize that small wins build resilience. When setbacks come, and they always will, the memory of past small wins reminds you that you are capable of making progress. You may have failed at something big, but you can look back and say, I've built habits, I've made progress, I've achieved before, and I can start again. That history of small victories becomes your emotional armor against discouragement. Without it, one failure feels like the end. With it, one failure feels like a bump in the road. So when you look at your 6-month plan, do not only focus on the grand outcome. Break it into daily actions that are so small you cannot fail. Then build momentum by stacking those actions day after day. One step may not matter, but 100 steps do. One small win may not change your life, but 6 months of small wins will create a version of you that feels unstoppable. Learn relentlessly once you understand the importance of clarity, discipline, and small wins. There is another principle that must fuel your 6-month journey: relentless learning. The truth is, no matter how disciplined you are, no matter how hard you work, if you do not grow in knowledge, in skills, and in understanding, your progress will eventually hit a wall. What separates people who keep rising from those who plateau is their hunger to keep learning, to keep adapting, and to keep expanding their capacity. 6 months may sound short, but in 6 months of intentional learning, you can completely change the way you think, the way you work, and the way you create opportunities for yourself. Learning relentlessly means refusing to stay the same. Too many people set goals and work tirelessly, but they keep using the same old strategies, the same outdated approaches, and the same level of knowledge they had years ago. They forget that what brought them here will not necessarily take them to the next level. to grow into a new version of yourself. You must be willing to shed old ways of thinking and embrace new ones. This requires humility, because learning begins with admitting that you do not know everything. It requires curiosity, because curiosity keeps your mind open to lessons that are hidden in every experience. And it requires consistency, because learning cannot be a one-time event. It has to become part of your daily rhythm. Consider how fast the world changes. Industries shift, technology evolves, opportunities come and go. If you are not learning, you are falling behind, because the world will not slow down to wait for you. The 6-month success plan is not just about working harder. It is about working smarter. And working smarter comes from equipping yourself with new tools, strategies, and insights. Reading books, listening to mentors, taking courses, observing those ahead of you. Each one expands your perspective, sharpens your decision-making, and gives you an edge that discipline alone cannot provide. But relentless learning is not just about formal education. It is about adopting the mindset of a student in every situation. Every failure carries a lesson. Every success reveals a principle. Every challenge hides an opportunity to grow. People who learn relentlessly do not fear mistakes, because they see them as teachers. They do not hide from feedback, because they recognize feedback as free coaching. They do not dismiss others because of pride, because they understand that wisdom can come from anywhere, sometimes even from those with less experience, but a different perspective. One of the most powerful aspects of learning relentlessly is how it changes your confidence. When you know you are growing daily, when you know you are equipping yourself with knowledge and skills, you stop fearing challenges, because challenges become opportunities to apply what you've learned. Imagine walking into a situation unprepared. You feel anxious, uncertain, and hesitant. Now imagine walking into the same situation after months of studying, practicing, and preparing. You feel strong, grounded, and ready. That difference is the gift of learning. Confidence does not come from pretending you are capable. It comes from actually becoming more capable through relentless learning. And the beauty of learning is that it compounds just like small wins do. Reading one chapter may not change your life, but reading every day for 6 months can reshape the way you think entirely. Practicing a skill for 15 minutes a day may feel small, but 6 months later it can make you proficient in something that once intimidated you. Asking one thoughtful question each day to someone more experienced may seem minor, but 6 months of those conversations can give you wisdom that many never gather in years. Learning relentlessly is about planting seeds of growth daily, trusting that each seed will eventually bear fruit. Learning also protects you from stagnation. Many people quit halfway through their goals, not because they cannot handle the work, but because they grow bored, stuck in the same patterns. Relentless learning keeps your journey alive, because it keeps you discovering, keeps you improving, and keeps you excited about the new versions of yourself that are constantly emerging. The process becomes less about grinding through repetition and more about enjoying the evolution of your skills and your mindset. And perhaps most importantly, relentless learning humbles you. It reminds you that no matter how much you achieve, there is always more to know, more to understand, and more to master. This humility keeps you growing when others become arrogant, and it keeps you adaptable when others become rigid. 6 months of learning relentlessly can not only change what you know, but also transform who you are, because the more you learn, the more you realize how much possibility still lies ahead. Adapt and adjust no matter how clear your vision is, no matter how disciplined you remain, and no matter how many small wins or lessons you gather along the way. The truth is that your 6-month journey will never unfold in a straight line. Life has a way of testing commitment through obstacles, delays, and unexpected turns. This is why the ability to adapt and adjust becomes a non-negotiable trait of anyone who succeeds. It is not the strongest who endure, and not even the smartest, but those who know how to bend without breaking, those who know how to shift strategy without abandoning the mission, and those who can face change without losing their fire. When you set out on a 6-month plan, you are essentially declaring war against your comfort zone, and comfort never lets go without a fight. There will be days when progress slows down, when unexpected problems rise up, when your resources seem thinner than you expected, or when the results you work so hard for do not appear on time. In these moments, frustration can creep in and tempt you to quit. But if you can reframe obstacles as detours instead of dead ends, then you will find strength to keep moving forward. Adapting does not mean lowering your vision. It means finding a different path to reach it. Think about how rivers carve their way through mountains. When they hit a rock, they do not stop flowing. They shift, they bend, they reroute, and over time they shape landscapes that once seemed immovable. Success operates the same way. If you encounter a barrier, your job is not to crash endlessly against it, but to find a way around it, through it, or beyond it. Adaptability is fluid strength. It allows you to remain committed to the destination while being flexible with the route. One of the greatest dangers in a 6-month plan is rigidity. Many people fall in love with a particular method or strategy, and when it fails, they believe the entire vision is lost. But failure of a method does not mean failure of the mission. You must be willing to examine your plan honestly and ask, what needs adjusting? What is not working? What can I improve? This requires humility because it means admitting that the first attempt might not have been perfect. It also requires courage because change is uncomfortable. Yet every adjustment you make brings you closer to finding the strategy that will unlock your breakthrough. Adaptation is also about emotional resilience. When things go wrong, your first reaction may be disappointment or anger, but emotion should never drive your decisions. Instead, take a breath, step back, and analyze the situation with a clear mind. Ask yourself what the setback is trying to teach you. Ask what skill you need to develop to handle it better next time. Ask what resources you can tap into that you may have overlooked. Adapting is not about panicking under pressure. It is about pausing, learning, and then moving with renewed wisdom. Another reason adaptability is powerful is because it keeps hope alive. When you believe there is only one way to succeed, every setback feels fatal. But when you adopt the mindset that there are always alternative paths, every setback becomes temporary. Hope fuels persistence, and persistence is often the deciding factor between those who finish their 6-month plan and those who abandon it halfway. In addition, adaptability makes you resourceful. Many people quit simply because they say they don't have enough time, money, or connections. But those who adapt learn to use what they already have. They learn to be creative with their time, to manage their energy wisely, to build relationships instead of waiting for opportunities to be handed to them. Resourcefulness is born from adaptability, and resourcefulness often outperforms even the most perfect conditions. Adapt and adjust also means learning to let go of perfection. Too many people wait for the perfect plan, the perfect timing, or the perfect conditions before they act. But perfection is an illusion, and waiting for it wastes precious time. Instead, act with what you have, adjust as you go, and improve along the way. Some of the greatest achievements in history did not start perfectly. They started imperfectly, but with people willing to adjust continuously until their vision came to life. 6 months is a short window, but in that time you will face storms, and storms are not signals to abandon the ship, but to adjust the sails. When you commit to adjusting instead of quitting, every challenge becomes part of your growth. Every problem becomes part of your preparation, and every setback becomes part of your story of resilience. Leverage relationships as you build your 6-month journey. One truth becomes clear: you cannot walk this path alone. Success may begin with personal vision, discipline, and individual effort, but it is sustained and multiplied through the relationships you cultivate along the way. People often underestimate the impact of environment, but the truth is, the people around you can either accelerate your growth or quietly sabotage it. Your relationships are like soil. If you plant your dreams in rich, supportive soil, they will grow strong. If you plant them in dry, toxic soil, they will wither no matter how hard you water them. Leverage relationships means being intentional about who surrounds you, who speaks into your life, and who you allow to influence your thinking. Energy is contagious, whether positive or negative. If you spend 6 months surrounded by people who doubt, complain, and discourage, it will drain your spirit, and sooner or later, their doubts will become your doubts. But if you spend 6 months with people who challenge you to rise, who celebrate your wins, who remind you of your strength when you forget it yourself, then your vision will grow stronger, and your discipline will feel lighter. The right relationships create an environment where success becomes not only possible, but natural. Leveraging relationships also means seeking mentors and guides. No matter how determined you are, there will always be someone who has already walked the path you are trying to walk. Learning from their mistakes, applying their wisdom, and modeling their habits can save you years of trial and error. Too often, pride holds people back from asking for guidance, but humility to learn from others is not weakness, it is wisdom. A mentor can give you perspective in moments when you feel stuck, remind you of the bigger picture when you are lost in the details, and hold you accountable when discipline feels heavy. 6 months with a mentor's guidance can produce results that 6 years alone might never deliver. But leveraging relationships is not only about receiving, it is also about giving. Success is never a one-way street. When you invest in others, when you encourage them, support their goals, and celebrate their progress, you create bonds of trust and reciprocity that become a foundation of long-term growth. People remember how you make them feel, and when you lift others, they often find ways to lift you in return. The relationships you nurture today can open doors tomorrow that you never imagined existed. 6 months of intentionally building trust and adding value to others can expand your opportunities far beyond what you could create alone. It is also important to remember that leveraging relationships is not about quantity but quality. You do not need a crowd of people to succeed. You need the right circle. A few supportive, growth-minded individuals are more powerful than 100 shallow connections. Choose carefully who has access to your energy, because not everyone deserves a seat at your table. Protect your focus by limiting time with those who drain your energy, and increase your progress by surrounding yourself with those who challenge and inspire you. Relationships also act as mirrors. The people you spend time with reflect back to the standards you accept. If your circle normalizes laziness, you will unconsciously lower your standards. If your circle normalizes ambition, hard work, and resilience, you will unconsciously raise your standards. In 6 months, you will become more like the people you consistently associate with, whether you realize it or not. That is why leveraging relationships is not optional. It is essential. Another power of relationships is accountability. When you declare your goals to someone you trust, you add a layer of responsibility that keeps you moving when self-doubt whispers that quitting would be easier. Knowing that someone is watching your progress, believing in your commitment, and expecting your results creates pressure. But it is the kind of pressure that produces diamonds. Accountability partners, supportive friends, or even a community of like-minded individuals can become the invisible force that keeps you aligned when distractions pull at your attention. Finally, relationships provide something even more valuable than accountability. They provide encouragement in moments of weakness. No matter how strong you are, there will be days when your energy fades, when the setbacks feel overwhelming, and when you start questioning whether the effort is worth it. In those moments, a single voice reminding you of your vision, a single gesture of belief, a single act of kindness can reignite the fire that discipline alone may struggle to sustain. Humans are wired for connection, and when you leverage relationships wisely, you multiply not only your opportunities but also your resilience. Celebrate growth, not just goals. One of the greatest mistakes people make on their journey to success is believing that the only victory worth celebrating is the final achievement, the big goal at the end of the road. They set a target, they chase it with intensity, and they tell themselves they will only be happy once they arrive. But this mindset robs them of the energy, joy, and confidence that comes from acknowledging progress along the way. The truth is that transformation is not built in a single moment of victory. It is built in the small, consistent wins that accumulate day after day. If you want to sustain yourself for 6 months and beyond, you must learn to celebrate growth, not just goals. Think about how life actually works. When a child takes their first step, parents celebrate with excitement, even though the child has not yet learned how to walk properly. Why? Because progress matters, growth deserves recognition, and every small milestone is proof of potential. The same principle applies to your own 6-month plan. You may not have reached your final vision yet, but if you showed up for yourself today when you felt tired, that is growth. If you read a book instead of wasting an evening scrolling endlessly, that is growth. If you said no to a distraction that once controlled you, that is growth. And when you acknowledge these steps, you feed your spirit with encouragement that keeps you moving forward. Celebrating growth is not about lowering your standards or pretending small steps are the finish line. It is about recognizing that the finish line is made up of those small steps combined. Every time you pause to notice your progress, you remind yourself that change is happening, momentum is building, and your efforts are not in vain. Without this practice, it is easy to feel like you are working endlessly without results, and discouragement will creep in. Many people quit just before a breakthrough, not because they lacked ability, but because they failed to see how far they had already come. Gratitude for growth is the antidote to discouragement. Celebrating growth also builds emotional resilience. When you appreciate the process, setbacks no longer feel like failures. They become part of the story of progress. You stop saying, "I failed today," and instead you begin saying, "I learned today, I adapted today, I grew stronger today." This shift in mindset is crucial because the journey of 6 months will not be perfect. There will be days when discipline slips, when plans don't go as expected, when results feel slow. If you only measure your worth by the end goal, those days will crush your confidence. But if you measure progress by growth, those same days will fuel your determination. Because even mistakes can teach, and even struggles can strengthen. Another powerful effect of celebrating growth is that it creates a positive feedback loop. When your brain associates effort with reward, it wants to repeat that effort. This is why acknowledging even small wins is so effective. It builds momentum. If you wake up early for 1 week straight and take a moment to congratulate yourself, you reinforce the behavior and increase the chance of repeating it the following week. On the other hand, if you ignore your progress and only criticize what is missing, you starve your motivation. Over time, your brain stops associating effort with reward, and discipline becomes harder to maintain. Recognition, even self-recognition, is fuel for consistency. Celebration does not always have to be extravagant. It can be as simple as journaling your progress at the end of each day, taking 5 minutes to reflect on what went well, or even giving yourself a moment of gratitude before you sleep. It can be treating yourself after a week of consistent discipline, or sharing your small victories with someone who encourages you. What matters is that you pause, acknowledge, and affirm your growth instead of ignoring it. In 6 months, these moments of recognition will not only sustain your drive, but also allow you to look back and realize that success was happening all along, not just at the end. Most importantly, celebrating growth teaches you to fall in love with the process, rather than being enslaved by the outcome. Goals are important. They give you direction. But the process is where transformation truly happens. When you learn to love the daily effort, the challenge, the progress, and even the struggles, you unlock a deeper sense of fulfillment. You stop chasing happiness as a distant prize and start experiencing it in real time as you evolve. And this mindset makes success inevitable, because someone who loves the process will never stop growing, and someone who never stops growing will eventually surpass every goal they set.